If I were a betting man, I would bet you everything I owned that we are the only church in the entire country that had that for an anthem today. But I loved it. It was great. Thank you. How wonderful it is to be in a place that has unique worship, that has people that feel like family. It's good to be home. It's good to be here. It feels, though, a little bit, I was telling someone in between the services, like we're all wearing something right here that's weighing on us. There's a lot going on in our world, whether it's in Texas or in Washington, D.C., or even here in our own pews. So I want you to just take a moment. Let your soul catch up with your body. Because in this busy world, it is easy for us to get so mismatched with what's going on that we forget who we are. And you all can't forget who you are. And I hope that my sermon is evidence of that. I don't know about you, but lately I've kind of found myself on my knees begging God to show God's self. We've been earnestly praying that God might reveal God's self in such a way that even Congress might pause as they rip health care away from millions of people to see what all the fuss is about. I just wish for a moment God would show God's self. I kept saying to myself, I'll get involved when I know that God is involved. I'll get involved when I know that God is actively at work and I know that my voice is needed. I argue with myself, and maybe you're doing the same thing, saying, I'm not needed now. It's already time for a new set of voices to speak up and speak out against the treachery afoot in the halls of power of this country. I ask this all in the context as the American empire as we know it seems to be crumbling before our very eyes. It begs the question, is the American empire about to fall? To be fair, I'm not putting you all on the spot. We don't have to go around with a mic and have you answer that. This question has been asked of empires since empires were a thing. Moses stood over the promised land and saw the warring inhabitants of the land being overtaken by the Israelites, even though he himself could not enter that land. Prophets foretold of the fall of Babylon to the Persians. Jesus of Nazareth spoke of the sacking of Jerusalem by the Roman Empire. And in our own modern day, events such as the Second World War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the Arab Spring, all signifies seismic shifts in the landscapes of empires. Yet today's lesson that Bishop Watkins read takes us to the 9th century BCE, where Elisha is a prophet in the land of Israel. Now, by this point in history, Israel had become not that small tribe wandering in the desert, but a strong and mighty nation amongst the geopolitical landscape. The prophet Elisha, having taken the mantle of Elijah, was now doing wonders in the sight of the people. He would serve between the 9th and the 12th kings of northern Israel. And this narrative takes us to where Naaman, a high-ranking, well-respected commander in another empire's army, has succumbed to unrelenting leprosy. But it just so happened that in one of their incursions into Israelite territory, the Aram king had taken captive an Israelite girl, and she had come in possession of this commander, and she knew of Elisha's abilities and works done in God's name. She got word to Naaman that there was a way out, a way beyond the reality of what he was experiencing if he only went to see this prophet in Samaria named Elisha. Naaman went with silver, gold, garments, an executive order from the king and all the might of his country. And he took it upon Israel to meet this man named Elisha. He presented this to the king of Israel, and immediately the king was distraught as he thought this was a futile and reckless task. God doesn't heal like that, the king thought. He tore his clothes and he wept because he could not see what God was about to do in the sight of all the people. Elisha heard of this and quickly came to the king's aid. He commanded Naaman to wash in the Jordan River 7 times, and then Naaman's flesh would be restored and his wounds healed. Now, Naaman, to be fair, was enraged. He had come all this way for healing, only to be told to go take a bath in the River Jordan? Wouldn't the rivers of the Damascus or the mighty Euphrates or the Nile have done a better job than this little tributary in Israel? Come on. But in his rage, he almost missed the point. To wash oneself in the Nile, the Euphrates, or the rivers of the Damascus might have been a mighty show of force. But sometimes it isn't the force that is needed for healing, but instead the source of where the healing comes from. We are so concerned right now that there should be a lightning bolt from heaven proving that God is working, that we just might miss that God is up to something in this very room. We're looking for it to show up on CNN or MSNBC. We're missing the point. It's right here. You see, you all are a proof text. You all, Sunshine Cathedral, are proof that God is at work. You are proof that God is at work throughout this country to unnerve those who believe they are immovable. Your very existence as people and as a church is proof that the people in power don't have it all figured out. Your very gathering on Sunday mornings is a rebuttal and an affirmation that God is far more concerned with compassion than for vengeance or for taking people off Medicaid. Your feeding of those in need is a reminder that food programs matter and that God is far more concerned with the poor than those who plot against the poor in the Oval Office. You see, I'm starting to think that as I questioned where God is in this moment, God might be doing the same of me. As I am questioning where God is in this instance, God might be asking where I am. Why am I not there? Am I with the poor, with the marginalized, the undocumented, the queer, the dispossessed, the lonely, and those with targets on their backs? And if I'm not with that group of people, then why am I wringing my hands and asking where God is when I already know the answer? God's there. Are we wise enough to see it? The mystic Teresa of Avila said this: Christ has no body but yours. No hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks compassion upon the world. Yours are the feet with which he walks to do good. Yours are the hands with which he blesses all the world. Yours are the hands. Yours are the feet. Yours are the eyes. You are his body. We're wondering where Christ is. Shouldn't we first ask why we are on the sidelines? For we are the conduits by which Christ is going to get in this game. We may be the very conduits by which we save this country and the world. What Naaman missed in the text today was that he believed that mighty power, the mighty rivers of old, would be the conduits of healing, and the measly River Jordan couldn't possibly bring out the healing that he needed. Yet it wasn't the water that healed him. It wasn't the water that made him whole. It was the God who carved the tributaries and the mighty rivers in the first place. What Naaman should have seen was that the River Jordan was a conduit of grace and healing, not grace and healing itself. Sometimes we're so consumed with mechanisms that we forget the mechanic who made them in the first place. God chose lowly rivers like the Jordan. God chose backwoods stables like an inn in Bethlehem. And God chose an old rugged cross on Calvary as tools and mechanisms to show the world who the mechanic is and that there is a different way. We must be wise enough to choose that way before we get too far down this road. We must choose the way of compassion, grace, and mercy before us. before we lose sight of what has got us thus far along the way in the first place. It's scary right now, church. It's scary. But we know the mechanic. We know a way out. We have to trust in our own innate power and ability to rise up and show the world that we know a better way. Back to what I first told you about empires falling, you know that I'm a Star Trek fan. I've said that at least as many times as I've been in this pulpit. In The Next Generation, there's an amazing episode in one of the most iconic arcs of the series. Guinan, played by Whoopi Goldberg, sits in 10 forward, which is the bar of the USS Enterprise. And Captain Jean-Luc Picard, played by Patrick Stewart, walks through touring the ship prior to one of the most iconic battles of the 24th century. As they talk, Captain Picard begins to wonder aloud if the great empires knew of their impending doom before it happened. He mused, I wonder if the Emperor Heronius, watching the Visigoths coming over the seventh hill, could truly realize that the Roman Empire was about to fall. This is just another page in our history, isn't it? Will this be the end of our civilization? Picard asks. And then he says, turn the page. Friends, as Captain Picard suggested, this is just another page in our history. But in the turning of this page, however we go forth from here, we have some agency. It is not written yet. It is not over yet. We can turn this page in despair and in frustration, wringing our hands in indignation as we watch it all play out and watch it all go to hell. Or we can turn the page with courage and compassion and grace and fortitude and stand with one another for whatever may lie ahead. I'm not immune to the reality that it will get darker from here. If you need any proof of that, Google how many days he has left in office. I'm also aware that this is the weekend of the 249th anniversary of this nation's founding. The night looms large before us. It feels really dark, unsafe, bleak, whatever word you want to use right now. People are scared, hurting, and angry, and rightfully so. But, then in the darkness, I think of President George H.W. Bush, a respectable Republican, who spoke of 1,000 points of light, piercing the darkness of our own despair and downtroddenness. You all, Sunshine Cathedral, are one of those points of light in the vast network of the cosmos. You're also the Underground Railroad, providing safety and security for queer folk as they did in the Civil War era. You are providing food and clothing as the Great Society did in the 1960s, and monetary support as the New Deal did in the 1930s. Actually, you all sound like the story of this nation. So don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Don't let anyone tell you you aren't a part of the fabric of who we are and how we're going to get out of here. And if it takes another brick like it took at Stonewall, then so be it. We must never cede the story of this country to those who think they can take it away from us. You know, when I think about the activists, the civil rights activists, the marriage equality activists, all these people that did all they did to get us here, they did not toil and fight so hard for us to sit back and be worried about if we can make a difference now. The point is that we must make a difference now. Just as Elijah passed the mantle on to Elisha, so too our mantle now is upon our shoulders. But here's the thing about mantles. Elisha knew where it came from. He knew it came from Elijah. And from Elijah, the mantle had been stained with his sweat and blood and tears. We too wear the mantles of those who healed this nation in moments of consequence. We are the bearers of this legacy. This church is a bearer of a story and a legacy that is far greater than any one person in this room. We have the power within each of us to tell that story in such a way that they don't stand a chance. They just haven't figured it out yet. You know, the other day I'm a sucker for picking up magazines and reading lists and stuff, and I was reading a list and it said, "This is a book you have to read." So I bought the book. It's called The Summer We Ran, and it tells the story of Grant and Tess, two candidates for governor for the Commonwealth of Virginia who find themselves facing each other on the debate stage, pretending to be strangers. The only thing is they aren't strangers. They had once ago encountered each other long ago in a teenage romance meant for the pages of a summer page turner. It's a really good book. Can't blame it for that. The book is a story of sordid love, of engaging with consequences of our past, and finding ways to live in a world hell-bent on division. I really commend it to you if you're interested in a read. But at one moment during the book, the two candidates are trying to figure out how to cope with having known each other for so well, so intimately, so long ago. Tess thinks to herself, why is it that the words we need to hear often come too late? That line leapt off the page to me. The truth is emblematic of what we're facing now. Why are the words that we all need to say caught in our throats? Why can't we prove that kindness can win? Why can't we claim that empathy is not a dirty word, but a word worth emulating and imitating? Why can't we speak up for those who need it? Why are we shrinking back in a moment where we should stand up? Why can't we believe in a God who both heals and saves? Why are we afraid to speak that truth? Why can't we hate that which is evil and hold fast to that which is good, as Scripture says? You know, if God is who God says God is, if the God that I have come to know is that God that is God, then God's going to trouble the waters. God's going to trouble the waters of those who are comfortable in this moment. Now, I was talking with someone in between services, and they said, gosh, how do these people claim to know Jesus? It's a good question. They don't. The Jesus I have come to know has always sided with the marginalized. He was always with the dispossessed. He was always with those who had been treated cruelly and unfairly. So why are we not? Why are we sitting back and watching it on TV and shaking our heads and saying, gosh, I wish someone would do something? Sunshine Cathedral, I wish someone would do something. I know that Sunshine Cathedral will not be on the sidelines of this fight. I know that moments are coming where it will be hard, where it will be scary, where it will cause us to question if we should take up residence in Ireland. But the time has come where we must turn the page. We must stand up, and we must do it before it's too late. All glory, honor, and power be to the one who was, who is, and who is to come. Amen.